Welcome to the Furlo Capital Real Estate Podcast, where we dive into the intricacies of investing in real estate. And our mission, it's simple. It's to equip people to invest wisely, both in properties and in people, so that together we can build our wealth. Together we can build our wealth and improve housing together. I'm James, who really can talk, and this is my wife, Jessie.
Hi.
How you doing today?
I'm good. I just took like a 2-hour nap.
Oh, man, that's nice.
I mean, it was Super Bowl Sunday, so
yeah, that's right.
Pretty classic for me.
Yeah, that's all right. You know, it didn't end the way that I wanted, but you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
That happens in real estate too. You know, we have plans and hopes and dreams for how something will go, and it doesn't always end the way that we want.
True.
So, you know, I guess it's a good lesson in knowing like there's more to life than just that thing that you're looking at. So we are rounding the corner to our 10th episode. Now, this is technically number 9. It's not number 10.
Okay.
But in preparation for number 10, I was trying to think through like, okay, what are my top 10 lessons that I've learned? And I kind of got in a roll, and I didn't come up with 10. I ended up coming up with 20.
Of course you did.
I know. That's how I go. So what I thought would be fun is we do 10 on this one, on number 9.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure I could probably find one to cut if I had to, but I'm not going to. So this is like, so we'll do 10 now.
This is like
and then,
part 1.
Yeah. And then I'll come back with you next week and
2.
we'll do part 2.
So this is like the bonus 10.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then you get the official 10.
Yeah, and what
Not
I'm
they're in
going to
order.
do for this one is kind of keep it more generalized, like investing principles. And then for the second one, because I kind of grouped them, the second episode 10 will be more like, hey, these are things that we've done to automate, simplify, scale our business, just things that we've learned.
That makes sense.
So a little more personal, a little more tactical. This one's a little bit more high level.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, if you had to guess what one of the lessons were, I know I'm going to put you on the spot here because I have not shared these with you yet.
You haven't shared the specifics with me, but you kind of shared the concept with me.
Yeah.
So I think, I definitely can wrap my head around like some of the logistical things for sure that we've learned. So maybe that's a conversation for next week, but it's like we learned a lot about how to screen tenants and how to, have conversations with people and what that looked like. And I think maybe big picture, it's that we kind of knew it getting into it, but it was developed, and it was just this idea that these are homes for people. It's like, yes, it's an investment, and yes, it's a business that we're running, but it's a home. So it's like,
so it's funny.
How would we set up this home?
You, on both of those that you just said, those are both my number 3.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I said number 3, which will make, I guess, number 1, is treat tenants the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And it solves many problems. Also, learn how to screen well, and issues don't tend to come up as often.
Yeah.
And then in parentheses I wrote, it's an early defense to property. If you get good people in and you treat them well, things tend to go well, and there aren't a lot of the other tools in the toolbox that you need to bring out. Yeah. You don't need to get great at giving notice last second. You don't need to get great at figuring out all the eviction rules, like all that stuff.
Or a bunch of fixes or something.
Yeah,
it's
just because you've got good people in, and you treated them the way that you wanted to be treated, you respected them. I remember we had this guy come in. It was this club that I was running, and he's like a tenant advocate, and he was like, 2 rules, easy: respect and communicate. Respect them and communicate with them. He goes, and 99% of your issues will be resolved right with that.
Yeah.
And so
makes sense.
Those are good ones. So my number 1 that I had was only buy properties with a clear or obvious path to profitability. and then I said, don't depend on market appreciation.
I am laughing because I remember...
That.
Yes,
That's
that is
rule.
a lesson, and that's my rule.
And you'll appreciate my follow-up here. It says, positive cash flow fixes a lot of problems.
It does fix a lot of problems. And I would see that one too as like, that's an offensive or a defensive move you do early. Like, I don't know.
I would try to get away from that particular analogy going forward.
That's true.
Because it's just smart. And when we very first got started, the rule that you instituted was that it had to be profitable from day one.
Right.
So you can see I've modified it a little bit, which is that there just needs to be a clear and obvious path. It's okay if it's not day one, because like when we bought the apartment building, it wasn't day one.
Right.
It took 6-7 months for it to happen.
Yeah.
But then it did happen,
Yeah.
and it's been a fantastic investment. And so I think that's like an example of something where it's like, yeah, it doesn't, but you have to have that clear path how to do it.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people out there who they go, oh, I bought this home or this rental for retirement. And they're like, and it breaks even in the sense that, yeah, the rent for the most part brings in more than the mortgage, which is great, but they're not necessarily saving for repairs or other future stuff.
Sure.
Or vacancies. And when that comes up, they just kind of lose out on it. But and I've talked to people where they go, yeah, but it's okay because I'm in this for the long term. I don't actually need to make money today. This is for when I retire in 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And I think what they miss is, yeah, but if you bought smart today, it would contribute to your retirement today.
Sure.
You wouldn't you don't have to settle for break even. And so that's probably my number one rule.
Yeah.
Number 2, buildings age and need to be maintained. And so even if you're not doing the work yourself, you need to be able to recognize good craftsmanship. Kind of related to that is YouTube is my best friend for repairs. So if you're actively investing, like either you got to do it or someone else has got to do it. If you're going to do it yourself, YouTube, you can learn everything. It's like one of the most amazing teaching platforms in the world, and it happens to be free. With that
being said, some work should be done by a professional, but
yeah, and some work has to be. But I would even go as far as like if you are going to hire people to do the work, you have to recognize what good work looks like.
Sure.
Otherwise, you get taken advantage of. I suppose you could hire a property manager and trust them to do it, but there's just something to be said about like you need to be able to recognize what has to happen, and just that and something will need to happen. Buildings get old, stuff happens, windows break, paint gets old, roofs die, don't die. They get old.
Yeah.
Water heaters die, that kind of stuff. It happens, especially if you're in it for the long term.
Yeah.
And, if you're doing flips and stuff, which is totally which I guess is a business, you care less about that. But, that's a rule. And
long-term maintenance, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Oftentimes, if you are flipping, you're buying it because someone didn't do that. And now you get to come in and catch up, essentially. Yeah. So we talked about number 3, which is treat tenants nicely. And learn how to screen well. I think that's probably been our biggest secret thing. It's just we got really good at screening.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped with a lot of things. And we got good at just treating them like humans. I have more to say next week. Yeah. All right, number 4, reducing vacancy risk with multiple units is nice. Just remember to factor it in for a single-family home. So this was something that when we have focused on multifamily units. We got a single-family home, but that was because we first moved in for ourselves, and then we ended up renting it out later. But for the most part, we have focused on multiple tenant places, whether that is multifamily, warehouses, storage, whatever. And again, for us, it was a really easy way for just reducing our vacancy risk.
Right.
I guess, and the bigger you get, the smaller that is. It's funny, I've noticed with the storage facility, I had 70 units, and none of them were making over $200 a month. And so when one went vacant, I wasn't freaking out in a rush to drop everything and get it filled.
Yeah, it was spread across many.
Yeah, because I was relative to all the others, this is negligible, and I'm just going to trust the process, and eventually someone's going to move in. Yeah. And whereas, when we had our duplex, which was a 3-bedroom type of place, it was a few $1,000s a month.
Yeah.
That was they gave me notice, and I was like, oh yeah,
here we go.
I gotta get to work.
Yeah.
I gotta get someone lined up.
Yeah.
I guess I felt that a lot more. And even though that was a duplex, I felt it.
Yeah.
And I know I'm gonna feel that with the warehouses that we own.
Right.
It's oh man, there's I have 3 tenants, and they're 3 really large tenants, and if one of them moves out, it's not that we're hosed. It's just it's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, it's a significant swing in income.
Yeah,
and I would imagine, certain, I guess there's a market or a clientele for any of those different areas, but it seems like the pool is smaller for that commercial large warehouse space is not the same as.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's both of it. So I feel
whatever.
It's kind of this weird, even with the warehouse, it's our largest vacancy risk, I guess.
Sure.
Which I guess makes sense. That's also the least number of tenants we have. And again, they're also the biggest, and that's the game.
Right.
And so, but yeah, so all this, like, just recognizing that one way to solve for the vacancy risk is to buy a multifamily.
Sure.
But if you buy a single family home, like, include it, do the numbers, add a number in there, and just be like, save for it, be ready for it.
Sure.
That's, I guess, the lesson there. Number 5, real estate isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It is a long-term game. And if you're doing it yourself, be prepared to invest your time in property management, repairs, and keeping up with legalities. And I got lucky. I happen to think all of those things are fun. And again, that's like if you're managing it yourself. And even if you're not, you need to be up on those rules because you can't just rely on your property manager to do everything. I mean, they will, but it won't be potentially optimized or exactly what you want because they're going to lean on you to some extent.
Well, it was that similar point you were making with fixes. It's like you got to be able to recognize whether they're doing a good job or not.
Yeah, that's fair.
not perfectly, but they're going to want some feedback and buy-in and how you want things in certain cases. And you've got to be able to give that to them.
I think it's just continuing down that recognition of like this is a long-term game.
Yeah,
like it's. Yes, you can get into flipping, you can get into wholesaling, and that is more like quick turn, like you're super active, that kind of stuff. But just like classical real estate investing, what we'd call passive income, because all those things are active income. Yeah, passive income, it's a long-term game. Yeah, for sure,
and not 100% passive.
Correct. Yeah,
that was your
I would
point.
argue no investment should be, but that is a different conversation. All right, number 6. Sometimes you have to cancel all your plans for a few days to deal with a repair or turnover. It's tough, but it's only because it happens so infrequently. So that's one of the things that I've learned. And like our portfolio has reached big enough now where like, well, I do it quote full time, but it's like I had the flexibility in my schedule. Right. And so things come up. Like recently I had to replace a bathroom floor and everything that goes with that, including putting in a couple extra joists to give it support, like everything. And I had the flexibility to do that. The last time I did that was in 2019. It just doesn't happen that often.
Very infrequent.
Yeah. And this one honestly could have been avoided had the tenants told me, but whatever. We're going to let that go. Tenants I inherited. How about that? Shocker. And so, but it's just one of those, like, when it happens, it's a pain in the butt. And you have to be willing to say, I know we had plans to watch the game or to go at a friend's house, but this is a business and like I need to focus on this. Yeah, and you just need to do it. And we've had some like, especially when I was working for HP, it was like I would get home from work at 5 o'clock, change as fast as I could, be over to the property by 5:30, and come home around 2 a.m. Yeah, just be like, this is what I'm doing until it's done. Yeah, and it was just how it was. But it was also one of those. For that level of, and that was one where we had inherited. The one I'm specifically thinking of was on Jackson Street, and we had inherited these tenants, and she finally moved out after we'd owned it for like 4 years, I think. And it was like, and it just hadn't been touched, and she had been living there for many years before that. Yeah, and so I was like, all right, here's my chance to go in and redo it, and so I did, and it was just crazy midnight oil type of stuff, and then it was done, but like. Yeah. That in the entire time that we owned it, that was the only turnover that we had. Yeah. And that was it. And so as a result, if you only have a few properties, you tend to not create the buffer in your schedule. You just go on and do stuff like, I have plans Friday night. I have things we do on Saturday. Because like if it happens once every other month or once every quarter, once every 4 years, like there's no reason to build that into your schedule. So it's just that recognition of there will come a point in time where I will have to cancel something. And it's a pain in the moment, but it's okay. Because the reason why it's happening is because it doesn't actually happen that frequently. That's my lesson there, trying to reframe something that feels annoying. All right. Number 7 is save financial reserves. So you want to make sure that you're saving for large capital expenses. And that's our heater officially turning on. Pretty well. Cool. And so they're like, I don't hear anything through the mic. And we're like, oh man. So scraping together the down payment and the closing costs isn't quite enough. And when we first got started, that was exactly what we did. But I also had a really good job. Right. And that kind of played the role of reserves. Because at one time we were like saving 70% of our income. And so I was like, whatever. Yeah. We don't need it. Anyways, so a good rule of thumb is to have either an extra $1,000 per unit in reserves, or essentially 3 to 6 months of expenses. And then what you want to do is you want to continue to save either 5% of your revenue or about $250 per unit each month towards bigger capital expenses. Because again, rule number 2, buildings age and need to be maintained. Right. And so this is where number 7 is like, you want to have those financial reserves.
Yeah.
And I think that for us, there was this transition, like, again, our reserves was, I have a job and I make plenty of money, so I can always play catch up. But that was something we had to learn when I left my job. Like, oh yeah, no, actually, like those reserves matter. Yeah. We have to have those. We got to make sure we have enough for everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some economies of scale that you can get when you have a lot of properties, because you don't necessarily need to have all the money saved up for everything going down, because the chances of that happening are very narrow. So there's some savings, like some things there, but yeah, no, you want to have some reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like reserves.
You're like, that's a good rule.
I'm all about buffers.
All about the buffers.
I don't like playing things close, so that's good advice.
I understand.
Good thing to learn.
Number 8, learn the legal stuff. Investing in real estate involves contracts and tenant-landlord laws, and understanding these intricacies is crucial to avoid costly mistakes. And yeah, I think that's true. Even if you have a property manager, again, like there's just certain things that it's good to know about.
Yeah.
And if you're a passive investor in it, there are certain laws as a passive investor that it's important to know. Like you cannot participate in the daily management of things. Like that's important to know. And if you do that, that potentially makes you no longer limited, which has certain potential liability implications behind it. So there's things to learn on the legal side. And there's certain states like Oregon that continue to get more and more restrict on landlords, which just makes it that much harder to be a landlord, especially if you're not going to screen well at the front end. Yeah. And so it's just something you got to think carefully about. And so if you have a property manager, again, or you have a sponsor who's investing for you, you don't have to know as much, but you do kind of need to know the broad strokes of what can happen. Yeah. Learn the legal stuff. It's important. Number 9, the real estate market is always changing. So you need to stay ahead of the curve by understanding local trends, property values, and potential growth areas. I'm sure there's a lot more there too. Yeah. But so just like, the market is constantly going up or flat in this area, and some places it's going down. And there's even places in town where you go, oh yeah, this is on the rise or not. And especially if you're continuing to acquire, I think that's important. Yeah. And I think that was ultimately what led us to sell 3 of our properties and flip those or 1031 them into the warehouses. I was paying attention to the market. I was like, oh man, they're like, I think everybody was at the time. I was like, oh man, this is getting crazy. Started doing some math and was like, okay, I think it's time for me to sell these guys. So you just got to stay on top of it. Yes, holding on to a property for 30 years might be the answer, but maybe not. And it's just worth paying attention to what your options are. All right, you're going to like this one. This is my last one. Okay.
10.
Real estate takes emotional resilience. There will be setbacks and challenges. Being mentally prepared to handle them is as important as the financial aspect. You will have tenants lie to your face. Some will move out without paying last month's rent, and you will have unexpected, expensive repairs. And you gotta be ready for it. Yeah. I've told this story of at our apartment building, there was like a windstorm or something, ended up blowing half of the electrical line off the building. I guess there were 2 lines coming in. Technically there's 4. There's first floor, second floor. On the second floor, there were 2 lines coming in and one of them broke. So one of them was working. So it was really interesting because the outlets kind of worked.
Strange.
But none of the appliances did.
Because the electricity was shared across both.
I don't know enough about electricity. I feel like
Strange.
It was as if it was a 220 coming in, and then it kind of turned it into a 110, so the outlets would work, but the appliances wouldn't. Or something. That is probably completely wrong and not at all how it works.
Electricians around the world are laughing.
What are you talking about? I don't know.
Who knows?
But it was like, it's semi-worked. and I remember I called my electrician guy, one-man shop. He's awesome. He dropped everything, came over, looked at it, and he was like, this is a big project. This is beyond my scope. I'm like, oh, great. Who do you recommend? He called someone, and they're like, yeah, we can come in here and we can do it, and they did. But it just it took time, because part of it was they had to work with the city to get things they had to talk with the city to say, if we do this, will this make you happy? Because for whatever reason, the city wouldn't just plug
reconnect
it back in because of where it snapped off. They're like, we have to go down and get it. And so you need a new wire. And the second they looked at the wire and what it was leading to, they went, the box that you have is now old. This is it just quickly became a thing. So they had to essentially abandon the top level system and then build up a whole new thing. And it was a thing.
Yeah.
And it was one of those where like the bill started at like 10 grand to fix this thing. You're like, oh, that's awesome.
Which is like kind of like your reserves. You
it wasn't kind of.
Save all of your reserves,
yeah.
but you should save for different repairs.
It was a chunk. I did not enjoy writing that check.
But yes, like your last point.
But here's the thing.
Emotionally taxing.
So that was that. But at the same time, I had tenants texting me being upset that we didn't have electricity.
Right.
And I remember I had one, it was like 5 a.m. I don't know why I was up, but she was up and I was watching like her texts come in. Like she was talking about how like things in her freezer were melting and she was supposed to have a dinner party at her house, at her place. And like, it was just like, she was super up. And I was just watching the ding, 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 ding. And I was like, oh man, this tenant's like, she's clearly just really upset right now. And so I actually just called her right there on the spot. I was like, hey, got your text messages. I'm so sorry. And the second I got her on the phone, like she backed off, she calmed down. But it was like that had to be my response. Like, man, I'm so sorry. Like, this is a pain. I totally get it. I'm sorry. And that requires that emotional resilience, right? Or the emotional intelligence, I guess. I always claim I have low emotional intelligence. So I do it right on that case. So
we all have areas we can grow.
But yeah, and I just kind of gave her an update. It's like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's the plan. We're moving forward, which I had been communicating those things, but it was just good to talk about it in person. But yeah, it was that, like, that's just an example of something where it was like, yeah, man, it wasn't easy, and it also wasn't life-threatening, so it was okay. We've had some other stuff, and I haven't shared this story super broadly, but yeah, we had a tenant at a property we weren't managing take his life, and it was like, oh, that's a thing.
That's
and,
that was intense.
Heavy. I was like, it was weird because I had a property manager, didn't actually know the tenant's name, didn't know anything about him, and but yeah, I still felt the weight of like, oh man, this was one of our people. Yeah. And it was tough. So yeah, takes emotional resilience to do it, because you'll have setbacks and other stuff that happen.
Yeah, I would imagine most fields where you're working with people take that sort of strength, and there's ebbs and flows and in relationship, and some of that can be hard, and often probably people don't associate that with investing in real estate.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Because I remember I had a summer job once.
You're just managing things.
Yeah, I had a summer job once where I was working for the high school helping to repair textbooks, because they would lend them out to students during the year, then we'd get them back, and we just had stacks of them. And the job was to go through and fix broken pages, tape all the edges, all that stuff. And then what we would have would, like, some kids who don't return their books, like our kids, it's kind of annoying, but whatever. And there would be a couple cases like, you don't get your diploma if you still have outstanding books or book fines. And there would be a couple senior parents who would come in and just yell at us and be so upset because we were stopping their kid from graduating.
Mark, it's not
which was
me.
Like, dude, like, I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just some kid.
Yeah, super interesting. That was probably my first exposure to the helicopter parent concept. I didn't know it at the time. That's what was happening. But yeah, and it's like they would just call and just be irate. And I just was like, I don't know, whatever you take it. Okay, I'm going to pass you off to my boss now. After you just cussed me out as a parent. It's kind of crazy. But anyways, those are probably the 10 things that I've learned. I'm sure there are a lot more. As a matter of fact, I'll share 10 more in the next episode. But I think those are like 10 good, like high-level, general truisms, things that we've learned that if you keep some of those rules in mind, especially that first one, just buy a profitable property. It solves a lot of problems.
It's true.
I think there's some good rules. So there you go. Do you have anyone where you're like, this is my favorite? I like, yes, definitely do that one.
Probably the tenant one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, dude, you're going to love next week.
It's a people business.
Yeah, it's such a teaser. You're going to love next week.
Yay.
I promise. Cool. Awesome. Well, with that, if you enjoyed this podcast, we would appreciate it if you left a rating or a thumbs up or however it works. Wherever you listen to your podcast, that would be awesome. So thanks again for listening, and have a great day.